All right, let's revisit what happened yesterday. I have no fucking idea what you mean by I haven't paid anybody back. It sounds like extortion. If you're concerned that I've been having to file things without paying filing fees, how much income have I made? And I just revealed I have all the records of when not only did I didn't even remember until I saw it in my evidence. Not only did I pay the tax, but it registered that the payment for the tax had been paid and that the processing fee for me to pay the tax had been paid. I have that evidence. I just saw it yesterday, right? So when you say, well, you haven't paid, no, no, no. What you're saying is, I haven't agreed to you creating some sort of alternative intent with processing of the payment. And because of that, you just won't give me money. And you steal my accounts and you assess some sort of consideration of cost without providing me with the record. And you run all of this other stuff through the things you take by virtue of the surveillance of me, including when you get on my desktop and steal things from my desktop, which I've been keeping track of too, which has been going on the whole time I've been inside. And when I try to go get a job, and for whatever reason, the electronic account associated with me working there has some other identity on it except mine. So they always have to close down the first account and open up a second account. You've been doing this the entire time I've been in Dallas. And there's always this, well, you didn't pay. Well, the thing is, if I do pay, you make up some excuse to say I didn't pay. And if I don't pay because you don't tell me what's due and you steal my money and you steal my work efforts and you do something else with them in somebody else's name, there's nothing about me not paying. And this isn't about being hacked and or having something else going on because it's that strategic and premeditated. And by the way, even before COVID-19, nobody would confirm in person that they actually were who the electronic accounts that are supplanting my rights to due process are trying to present them as, right? If you don't act like what is the law regarding the way a magistrate judge acts, and if you don't act like the way that the law says a presiding judge acts, and you do things that are completely formulaic and make sense only if you're following somebody else's investment scheme, an investment scheme which, by the way, they're running based upon people's stolen identities, then how am I supposed to even know what this payment is? And what are you going to do when we're now 3 years down the road? Actually, going on 3 years down the road, in over 3 years down the road, in Texas, in Dallas alone, where the refusal has compounded, right? I don't know what you mean. I can't pay. You don't pay me for the work I do. You steal what I do give to you and let somebody else run with it. I have three now times when I received filings on days or in time frames when some other case had a filing in the same court and or by the same judge. And when I tried to get a job, I couldn't stay more than 72 hours. I'm not allowed to get a job to actually make money, to even pay, despite the fact that there are hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars worth of outstanding fees that I've been keeping track of, as well as all these things that come from reports that I submitted. Nobody's closed out one report in 5 years. I don't have one report that's been closed out in 5 years. And so I don't know what you mean by I don't pay. If it's what is alluded to, that there's some sort of economy where you're supposed to pay with sin or you're supposed to pay with tawdriness or nastiness, like you're trying to elicit a false confession, right? You got to understand, if you're trying to elicit a record of a false confession, including for a crime I didn't commit or a crime somebody else committed, then that has very specific implications when it comes to application of laws concerning torture. And it comes to laws concerning things like unlawful detention or kidnapping, right? And so now it's kind of like one of these matters where you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to make a choice because it's really gone on pretty far. It's really and I'm absolutely aware that we are within a 48-hour period of some very important anniversaries, and I'm not going to compromise on this. I'm not going to play around. I'm not going to put on a pseudo attitude. I'm not going to like do a pseudonymic, right? Well, you've had plenty of years to successfully actually substantiate any charges about my mental capacities. The question now is, what are yours? What are the mental competencies of the people who refuse to actually provide me with the context that I need directly to get these things addressed, and yet insist on providing some sort of bulwark where their name and their alleged, title gets to jump on top of mine, gets to stamp themselves on top of mine, gets to claim the branding that was already placed upon me that nobody's responded to this time. Because now I'm going to say, I'm in a situation where somebody's trying to get me to acknowledge, yes, you were the slave and we sold you now. And they're really pissed because we're not able to collect what we were promised because you're not performing, right? And so you're dealing with things that are on a level, and my reality is in a very different manner, and it gets very confusing when you got things going through the court. And I'm sorry, but my 13th Amendment claim was in a different jurisdiction. So why do you keep interceding with acts of an electronic account associated with what my 13th Amendment claim was to another court? And not addressing the direct literal charges presented in the court here, right? And then trying to do this swapping out of some sort of religious or spiritual tradition, including one that I understand right now is very dangerous to mess with, right? Right now, it's very dangerous to try to revisit that kind of Orientalism, the kind of forced Islamicization of matters based upon a refusal to deal with anti Semitism, right? You say, well, we spent 2 years trying to get you to do it this Christian way. You're not doing it Christian way. Now you've started doing it this Muslim way. You've Islamicized this particular kind of persecution, and it's very dangerous. So just let me put this. It's very, very, very dangerous what you're doing. And you've been doing this for way too long. You should already know better. And, you can't blame anybody else, right? You can't blame anybody else.